to order. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk.
Oh, thank you, Stephen.
Oh, thanks. Could we take roll, please?
Okay, roll call. Paquette.
Here.
Wolkers.
Here.
Hughes.
Here.
Atwood.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Jaffa.
Here.
And Chair O'Regan.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is citizens' comments on any subject except those items scheduled for public hearing. Do we have anybody signed in?
There's nobody signed in on the sheet.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda and the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I'll move to approve the agenda, consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, voting on the approval of the agenda and the consent agenda. Jaffa.
Yes.
Paquette.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Wolkers.
Yes.
Atwood.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
And Chair O'Regan.
Yes.
The agenda and consent agenda have been approved, and there was no items on the consent agenda.
Thank you. Moving on, orders, presentations, and reports. There are no proclamations and awards, so we'll go straight to administration reports. And we'll start with the Assistant City Manager.
Cool. My report's on page 3. The only other thing I would add to that is I emailed the board, a couple weeks ago. City Council is going to hold a special meeting on the 23rd at 5:30 p.m. with Planning and Zoning, Historic Preservation, and PACAB. So Council asks that anybody that's available to attend, please do so. And it's kind of that rare opportunity to directly interact with Council, and so I would encourage you guys, if you're able to attend, January 23rd at 5:30, and it'll go Planning and Zoning first, and then Historic Preservation, and then PACAB. So we'll save the best for last. And that's all I've got, and I'll take any questions.
Could I just to clarify that would mean that if people had a conflict in time, as long as they were here by 6:30, they would make the PACAB slot, right?
We didn't assign a time to each, but I would say Planning and Zoning will, it's just a guesstimate. I mean, you never know how the meeting will go, but I would anticipate P&Z going at least 45 minutes. HP will probably go quick. It'll probably be 15 minutes, and then PACAB half an hour, sort of, kind of.
Yeah, historically, we've always had half-hour slots.
Right.
But if we're not doing that, then it's a little hard to know.
Yeah,
sure.
P&Z's got kind of more to work through probably, just
Right.
because they've had a busy year, and with all the development taking place, I would anticipate it taking more than half an hour.
Right.
And HP's pretty. I'm not saying they're not important. They're not as active. So.
Right. I do have another.
Go ahead.
So I'm going to bring this up now. I had it for comments at the end, but since your report kind of talks about a lot of wastewater stuff here, in terms of working with R&M engineering and all of that, the lagoon is stinking. I was out working on our solar panels the other day, standing on the waterfront, and instead of smelling, the kind of air I should smell when I'm standing on Low Point, what I was smelling was the lagoon. So, knowing what I know and what other engineers I know about that lagoon would say, it's not getting enough air. It should never freeze on the surface. And it has frozen this winter. It's not frozen now, but it has frozen. And that's always an indicator that there's not enough air moving. So I thought, well, let me go back and look at the Public Works report in the council packet, because when I brought this up to the city manager a couple of months ago, I asked for an update, and she said, well, it's whatever's in the packet, in the last report. So this is out of the council packet of January 12th, 2022. And it still says, it still makes reference to the October 25 engineering report, but that is 2021 is when that report happened. And then if you look in the packet, there's a total of 7 bullets, all that have blue writing underneath them. But that blue writing hasn't changed in months. And so the summertime testing that was supposed to happen last summer, none of those things that were supposed to happen last summer in terms of the report that the engineering firm gave us, they didn't happen. So this has become kind of static now in the packet. So I'm really concerned that we need to fluff the whole thing back up and re-look at all of this stuff and get the things that never happened last year back on the schedule. Because we don't want it stinking in the summer, and it's bad enough now that it's not smelling nice in the winter. Over.
Good information. We had a meeting yesterday to talk about our ARPA utilization, and the lagoon was definitely, specifically the aeration, the bubblers was one of the items. We've got a meeting next week with our rate consultant to talk about the infrastructure. We're going to be including, state DEC has what they call a quarterly questionnaire where you can submit projects for the state revolving funds. And so I think it's February 28th. And the next month is the next quarterly where we can submit our projects. And I took notes on the items that you mentioned, and we'll follow up this afternoon.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Yeah, I got a couple. I'd like to follow up to what Linda said.
I think that isn't necessarily appropriate at this time.
I think it is. You tell me why it's not.
Well, we're dealing with the city manager's report, and the lagoon isn't on the city manager's report.
We're dealing with city manager's report, which specifically deals with these topics.
I think it's
Rule me out of order. Rule me out of order.
I think it's out of order. I think we need to
Okay,
save
I have
it
a
for
question for
comments.
the manager. The assistant manager, I have another question.
Okay.
The public works building. The 15% is an unusual number for me to see. Preliminary, in the same paragraph, you say you're going to get a preliminary report in January, and by February you'll be at 15%. Maybe as a contractor, I'm used to seeing the first reports at 35%. So I'm curious, I don't doubt the progress here, but what are the steps? It looks like you're not going to establish a schedule until January.
So right now we have a draft schedule that the KPB architects and R&M engineering generated. We're going to go over that draft schedule on January 10th. So I think that's next Tuesday. There's a couple problems with it. One being that the current design schedule doesn't take into consideration that we have to go out for a GO bond and get voter approval, and so there's some things that need to be tweaked. I'm not an engineer. I can just tell you that that's where KPB Architects is going to get to by the end of February. The design survey team is going to come down next Monday through Thursday, so that you'll see 2 of their surveyors on site at Fort Raymond for 4 days next week, looking at utility placement and where the facility should be located on the parcel, easements, etc. And as soon as the as soon as the schedule is finalized, I would anticipate that we would include that in a council packet.
Good follow. Do you anticipate a groundbreaking date? A groundbreaking date?
We're not there yet, Bruce.
Yeah, okay.
We're like 24 months out, I would say, at minimum. And again, voter approval, I would anticipate that would.
Did you say 24 months?
We're probably, and that's an ish.
Yeah.
Well, we have no ribbon cutting date.
Okay. I have another question
Before
for
your question, Carl.
Well, Stephen, you're on the hot seat right now.
Man, I can tell.
I have 2 questions, should be simple answers. First off, is the public works shop going to be built at Fort Raymond? Is that it, or is it another location?
That's the site that council selected. So
Okay.
the city sold 3.31 acres on the south end that's right next to the Parks and Rec warehouse to Chugachamute for the new
Yeah.
clinic. And then there's like a 4-acre parcel between there and there's a 120-foot utility easement where the power lines run east-west. So that 4-ish acre parcel is the site that council selected.
And the second question is reference to Little Creek Tunnel. Is there a designated start date on construction, or is it up in the air?
They're still, the Army Corps is still working on design and engineering, and same thing, they haven't given us a date yet.
That's,
Can I follow up on that? Was there any specific design selected for the Little Creek Tunnel, or are they're still in that phase?
Still working on it.
Thank you.
In the current $1.7 trillion federal package, Senator Murkowski was able to identify $2 million to the city of Seward.
Yep.
Could you speak to how that'll be utilized? And
We will see. Our intention is to do sludge removal both at the Lowell Point and at Spring Creek concurrently. There's a 20% required federal match that the city's gonna have to come up with. It's gonna be a little more than 2 million for this side, and then while, you know, the team's down here doing sludge removal on this side of the bay, it's advantageous to do the Smick Lagoon as well, so.
how did Senator Murkowski, I'd like you to tell me how Senator Murkowski knew we had a sludge problem.
Well, I mean, it's a recurring, I think, don't quote me on this, but it's about once a decade that we have to do it. And so there's something that's called CDS, Congressionally Designated Spending.
Right.
Where every year, and in fact, we'll do it again in probably February, give our federal lobbyist a list of our 4 to 6 priorities that are likely or possible for, the old term was earmarks, now it's CDS. And Lisa's been pretty successful at getting the
Well, that's
last
the answer I was
project.
looking for, thank you.
Okay, let's go down here.
Don't worry,
first.
Dwayne, you'll get your turn in a minute.
Oh, sorry, Dwayne, I didn't see.
I'm not asking a question.
Okay.
With the sludge removal, will that, under contract, be shipped out, or will it be stored on a city site?
We haven't gotten that far as of yet.
But that's pretty critical, you
Yep.
know? Okay. Just like to know when it, and find out.
Member Paquette, you have another one?
Yeah, I think sludge removal's in the legislative priority document even.
I don't think we call it out specifically in the pamphlet.
I saw something where it's in, but so that's how she knew. So my question is there any chance, because when the money was appropriated for the tunnel, the Lowell Creek Tunnel, that was prior to the landslide. So my question is did the I guess it's sort of a multi-phased question, did the landslide cause them to reassess the project? And is there any chance that because of the landslide, they will decide that the project is not feasible?
I'd say it's a definitive no to your first question, that the Army Corps has not indicated that was the case to your first question. To the second question, we don't have any indication that the Corps would pull back from the project because of the landslide.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay.
Yes, how far up Lowell Canyon, how far up in there are they studying the stability of the mountainside stuff? Is it right just up where they're going to start, or are they going up that canyon a ways?
They're going up the canyon.
Good.
There's a report before council and elsewhere that very well details what they've looked at in feasibility. And I think they've preserved some latitude for engineering change or discovery changes, but there's a plan out there.
Thanks, Bruce. Any other questions? Okay, moving on in reports, we move on to the Harbor Master's report.
Madam Chair, so my report's in there. There's one little change. It says the harbor's fully staffed. Council actually, and we budgeted for one additional harbor worker too at the harbor. So the reason for that was so we can do boat lifts on both sides of the bay, because it's becoming a pain in the spring and fall for people getting in and out of the water. So requested an extra position, and the council approved it in the budget. So that's going to be, it's going to help a lot of the fishermen and, you know, to charter boat people and everything. So that, we're out advertising right now for that position. So.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I do seek clarification on, procedure clarification. There's mention of the Coast Guard update on the lease, and you're going to present it at council. Is it appropriate for me to ask if there's any way we could hear what the Coast Guard offered?
I don't have it with me. It's going to be at the January 9th meeting.
Okay.
So, yeah. So this was for the council meeting, and it just, I sent this one instead of the PACAB report. So that's why it says that at the meeting. So my apologies for that.
Okay, so anybody interested, tune in to the ninth council meeting, yes.
You mentioned there's an issue with the fire extinguisher on the dock.
Boxes and the life ring boxes.
Say it again? Boxes, correct. And you're working through a solution. Does the fire department have some oversight, or do they get involved with that? And what's the issue?
So the fire department knows about the fire extinguisher problem because I brought it up to them. So we have them tested every year, thousands of dollars every year, so I have to pay, because I think I have 500 or so, or 300 some fire extinguishers I have to get done every year. But so the problem is the same company that we've been buying from all these years sent these cabinets up that are almost 3 inches too narrow. So the life ring goes in there, and the handle, because they put the handles on the inside, you can't, they hit, and they're supposed to have a breakaway glass, which they never sent either. So there's no way you could functionally open the door for the fire extinguisher and the life ring. So we're supposed to be getting wider ones. The contractor's working on maybe a different vendor, but Cheyenne's been the only vendor that we could find. But supposedly find one out of Texas, so we'll see. But I had to ask for an extension because the grant was supposed to be done by December 31st.
Is the cabinet size relative to the extinguisher size? Is that what the problem is?
Well, the fire extinguishers are all the same size. They're about 30 pounds. And the same thing, the handle hits the fire extinguisher. And like I said, it has a breakaway glass. The reason why they put them inside, where people were opening them and they're not closing them right, and the wind catcher's been breaking the doors off. So they moved the handles on the inside with a breakaway glass, which was fine on our stuff, on the one project we did last time. But this time you can't, there's no way, if there was a glass there, you couldn't push it in because it's hitting the fire extinguisher. They're actually 2.5, 3 inches too narrow.
Is there a liability exposure to the city within the current condition?
There is. We got some life rings down there right now. We didn't put the, you can open them, it's hard, but you can open them. Okay. And the fire department knows about the fire extinguishers.
That's all I have, thank you.
Any other questions? I would like to say that since I am over at SMIC every day, the crew over there has done a really great job of keeping up with the weather and the roads. Today, Nash Road itself is underwater, completely all the way across. But the side roads through SMIC itself have been really great with the ice and snow this winter, so thanks to them for their efforts there. Appreciate it. Okay. So that takes us to the end of our administration report. Oh.
No railroad report this time?
I can give a railroad report if you wish.
And also we don't have the chamber here, so yeah, if you have something you'd like to update us on.
Sure, I can give it briefly from.
Your seat's fine.
That's fine, sure. I don't really have that much new. So our traffic currently is normal freight trade, fuel deliveries, some barges that are on our docks for wintering. On December 22nd, we completed an offload of a bulk carrier called the Indigo March, and that was approximately 14,000 proppant bags onto our freight dock, which are being loaded to train as we speak. The first of a dozen train operations to get those bags moved. And hopefully in the next 12 weeks, we'll see how that goes. And then to the wintering barge information I provided, that's Crowley has a fuel barge on the dock of DBL 289, and we have the Turnagain Marine Brightwater that's actually on our energy dock, the former coal dock. And still processing the 2023 cruise ship berth applications, but we're looking at about 92 dockings this coming summer so far. We'll see if all of those hold. The terminal building, we've got public use at Archery League last night. We've got the senior center using the building regularly for walking. And let's see, also I'd mentioned previously that the railroad was in the process of hiring the assistant port manager, and I'll have an announcement soon. We've offered the position to an individual, and we're in negotiations now, so that's good news. And then I don't have anything to report on the proposed cruise dock project currently. That's still being worked on, but hopefully I'll have something to report soon. That's all I have.
Thank you. Question?
Yeah, I have a question. What do you have on-site station for oil spill response, and are you beefing that up for the moored cruise ships and like a fuel barge tied up there?
Yeah, so we do have response equipment on site. It's containerized. In terms of having additional boom or response equipment for additional cruise ship traffic, I don't believe we have any plans to do that. But that's a good point. We can certainly bring it up.
Okay, it'd be good to have enough if we have a problem.
Go ahead, Mark.
So the Coast Guard also has 2 containers that's over at the Coast Guard building, and it has extra boom in there and stuff like that for any events around Seward area. So they would go over to assist the railroad. But we have 2 connexes full of materials.
Thank you for that information. Okay, the chamber isn't here today, so we will move on to new business. We have no resolutions and no action memorandums. We do have the 2023 harbor tariff before us, and so we have the printed updated version for 2023. Norm, would you like to draw our attention to anything specifically in here?
So nothing specific. So the stuff we worked on at the beginning of last year for, bringing the travelers up to a little higher price, the storage, that's really working good. And all those things, and plus our annual goes up by the CPI, the mortgage does. And then, of course, the biannual will go up next year, is the one that we worked on a few years back for the wharfage and stuff like that. Everything is current in here, what we talked about this past year. We have to bring it before council because council has to approve it, but which is going to be the January 9th meeting, because I have to report to the Federal Maritime Association. So it's because there's goods crossing the dock, so it has to be reported. So, but it was part of your to talk about, and if there's something on there we can discuss, or we can bring to later to address, so we can do that.
Okay. Does anybody?
Yeah, Norm, how does Seward rank? I know each harbor is different and the costs of operation are different, but how does Seward rank compared to Homer and Kodiak?
So, Homer, I was actually, when I was at the harbor, at the Pacific Marine Expo, talking with the other operators of different harbors. We are low on the travel lift. We're also really low on storage. The gentleman from Homer wished I would raise my prices, double them, but I said I can't double them. But we did bring them up, and so on a big lift, we actually deal with Port Townsend more often, and they're over there also, and we're pretty the same as Port Townsend. Of course, it's Washington, but we're But we're pretty equal, we're lower than Kodiak. Of course, Kodiak has limited storage, but their lifts their prices are more than ours also on the travel, and the storage also, we're way low on storage, but we are working, bringing it up. It's nice what you guys did a year or so ago with that, not doubling, but adding an extra 10 cents if you stay longer, because it's supposed to be a working yard, not a storage yard.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, Norm, I just wanted to get some specifics on the finances for the harbor. Are you generating sufficient revenues to cover your expenses and bond and lease obligations, whatever they might be?
So currently, we are covering expenses and covering the bonds. In the past, we were short on bond payments for years, so that was coming out of the reserves. So,
Are you also able to put a little bit away for future capital repairs or improvements?
so whatever, we come in, knock on wood, we come in under budget every year, so whatever is remaining from that budget goes into the reserve, so it builds up.
Okay.
So we use it to get the harbor we have now, which is complete. There's no more old docks except for, the substructure IET dock. But we pretty much replenish that, but we're trying to we have some money that we're looking at, hopefully the washdown pad and the crane, those two things that need to be done. I don't think we got the PIDB grant, nobody's told me anything. I've been asking questions. They're coming out with another one here, so smaller ones, they were saying, so we'll apply for that, but we'll see where it goes there.
Thank you.
One thing, so last year, because I was questioning dredging, and I know we dredged in 2010, it's about 10 years, but I asked them, they came in and they surveyed, and we're good. There is a silt that brings the bottom up a little bit, but it's not hard, just a silt that floats, silt that floats around in the harbor. So we're still good, according to the Corps, because the Corps comes in, dredges the whole channel all the way up to around INT dock. That belongs to the Corps. So when they come and do that, we dredge the rest of ours. So it'll be good to build up money for that. Keep the, we're still bonding, so we still have bonds out, so we're still collecting that passenger fees. And I think we should keep collecting to pay for the dredging when it needs to be done.
Thanks, Norm. Go ahead.
So mostly in this document are increases in rates.
Correct.
Did we set those or did you pick those?
We set the rates, we talked about them, but so the mortgages is done by the CPI the 5-year average CPI. But the other things we set at PACAB, and then I brought before council approved what you guys recommended.
I'm just wondering what page was I on? Well, we increased the, so I'm on page 28 or 41, under wharf demurrage. So we raised rates for all freight, but then we didn't do anything with motorhomes, portable business buildings, or living quarters.
No, because when they brought all that information before, this is the average of what everybody else is. Maybe we didn't want to go higher than somebody else. I don't like to go higher, I like to stay right below.
Right.
So
right.
That's the reason that one didn't go up.
Okay.
And just we've been getting a lot of wharfage across to North Dock. It's really nice. We got some more stuff coming in here for that Nash Road utility project. All the stuff's coming in on the barge across the bay. So for that project, so it's nice. Plus, we're still hauling dirt, buying dirt from the city and rock, and then shipping it out. So we'll get wharfage there too. So it's nice.
Great. Any other questions dealing specifically with the Port and Harbor tariff? So, Norm, what are the next steps on this? And if somebody did have a comment after this meeting, what would their timeline be to?
So this is going before council on the 9th.
Okay.
It's going before council on the 9th. So if there's a change or something you think, you can bring it before me, and I can bring it before council to maybe suggest a change. or recommend an amendment to the tariff. That's something that can be done.
Okay.
If you write it out, it might be better. And we can do it, lay down with the council at the time so they understand what the change would be.
Okay, so if anybody thinks of something after the meeting, make sure and get with Norm as soon as possible about that.
You know, I thank everybody for all their work. We worked really hard on all this, to keep things up. We're staying up with, like I said, the other harbors are more expensive than we are, so minus the Morge and Homer. That's a whole different story.
So we're basically in a very competitive position.
Correct. Cordova's raising their rates a lot. They're gonna be above us. Valdez is raising their rates finally.
One more?
Yes.
Under upland storage, 285,
To a page.
39 or 26, 39 in the packet, 26 in the document.
Okay?
So under laytime rates,
Yep.
$9.19. If we were to just round that up to $20, would that mess us up in terms of competition?
You mean round it up to $10, you mean, or 20?
Or, yeah, 10.
Okay.
Yeah, $9.19, rounded up to $10 even. It just seems like an odd number.
So this was part, if I remember right, was, this
And
was
then-
part of the biannual rate increase, I believe. So that's why they got that odd number there.
So it happens
Every
every couple of years, and it just goes up by a certain percentage every
Oh.
couple of years.
But I mean, if we do it, then in next year, we're gonna do it again, it'll add more sense to it, and then we'll have to adjust it again.
I get you, gotcha.
Does the city charge sales tax on top of that fee?
Correct.
For
Of course, it maxes out at.
City and Berlin?
Correct, but it maxes out at, what,
$500.
$500. Go ahead.
Yes, if we start rounding, I think if we're gonna round up from 10 cents to $1 more, let's round down if it's below 50 cents and up if it's above 60 cents. Kind of come out with a balance that way.
Yeah, I don't think at this point in time it makes sense to talk about rounding, since every couple of years it's going to go up.
It's gonna change by a
We
few
would have
cents
to-
every time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But if
I
we-
forgot about that.
If we do round, I think we should cut it so it runs both ways.
Well, I know that the city on other items, they do up and down.
Great. Okay, any other questions regarding that? Okay, so that will close the discussion on the harbor tariff. Moving on, we don't have any other reports. There are no citizens for citizen comments, which will bring us to board and administration comments. And let's start on this end.
A lot of questions today about the Army Corps project, so I'll probably, our next meeting's on the chamber, but I'll bring that back to you guys, just so you can take a look.
Can
And
we
then-
also get the, sorry to interrupt your comment section, can we get the lagoon added for next meeting as well? Sorry, go ahead.
So we, if I can grab it. So that was another question. So we have, I was thinking maybe we should have that as our topic, and I don't have my PACAB calendar in front of me, but infrastructure was one of the topics, so maybe we could add that as a primary for that topic. Does that sound amenable?
I think that
I
would
think
be,
it's March. I'll have to look. But yeah, definitely more info on the lagoon. And that's all I've got. Thanks.
okay, thank you, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, so I would like to do a shout out to, I don't know if it's correct or not, whatever, but to Catalyst Marine for helping me out on Saturday for getting that vehicle out of the harbor, which was leaking fuel and everything into the water. Once I got a hold of them, you know, people had gone for a long weekend, they showed up, crane, we had that vehicle out of the harbor within about an hour and a half. Combination between my crew and theirs, it was great. Yeah, just give a shout out to Catalyst for, and we stopped the contaminations of fuel in the water and things like that, so, yeah.
Love those small town stories where people come together. Any comments?
None. I just think it's good that we have a full board showing here at the start of the new year. It bodes well. And yeah, I'd like to thank everyone for attending and for their good work. And that's all I have.
Member Smith?
And no additional comments this time, thanks.
Okay. Member Chapman?
Yeah, thanks for everybody for attending. It's nice to start the year with a quorum. I would note that we're 35 minutes into this meeting and have covered a discussion with no action items. We have apparently plenty of time for additional things that aren't on the table. So the discussions that have been put out there in the past about not having enough time to deal with some things seems to, at least for this meeting, not be follow along. So I would hate for this, what has been a very significant group and support group for the city to become irrelevant, except for harbor taxes or a few things that are in the title. I know that this group has moved a lot of things forward for the city of Seward, and I don't think we should diminish our role. And if we have to discuss this with the chamber or with the council, pardon me, on the whatever date that was, 23rd. You know, I think we want their direction because we are an advisory board to them. Other than that, I appreciate what the city has done. It's a well-managed city. City manager, assistant city manager, and staff have brought something. The current two of you have brought something, I think, very positive to this community. I see the staff reports follow along what I would assume is a general philosophy of administration, which is encouraging clear, concise reporting on what's going on. There's no meandering on these reports. They seem to be right on. Norm, this is not just for you being here, but your reports have always been up to speed. But we see other reports from other groups that are following that same model. I think that's important for any kind of planning. The long term for this city, you know, again, I'm very enthusiastic for this city and what can be done here. But there has to be some decisions made. There has to be some stepping out ahead of what's safe in some cases. You know, the housing issue that we're going to be talking about, there's nothing safe there. You know, you can spend $25 million and nobody comes. You know, but you know, with good planning, good thoughtful background, good chance it'll be successful. And as you know, housing, I talk to people in our business all over the state of Alaska. Housing and employment are the workers are the two biggest problems. You know, you can't get the workers without the housing, and you can't justify the housing without the workers. It's a real dilemma that the whole country is in. But we're going to bust through this, but not without some gambling.
Thank you. Let's start here.
Oh, here? Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate your comments, and I agree. We have up to 2 hours scheduled, and I actually hate it when we finish a meeting early because I feel like there's stuff on the table we could have been working on. I wanted to say thank you to the city staff for, and I think this came from admin because I have never seen City Hall look so pretty during the holidays. And they were not expensive decorations. It's not like you walked into City Hall and went, oh, it's beautiful, and you used a lot of taxpayer dollars. You know, you just walked in and you went, wow, it's beautiful. And you didn't feel like money had been spent to make it beautiful. It was so nice. I also wanted to thank the chamber and whoever had the real foresight to move the time of the fireworks. For the first time in I don't know how many years, I actually got to see some fireworks. Next time, we'll know to leave the dogs at home. So I didn't get to see all the fireworks because the dogs went crazy, but that's great, and I think it really is much better for the community. So those are my comments. Thank you for everybody being here. It's nice to have a full board. I hope you can keep it that way.
Madam Chair, board members and administration, first off, Happy New Year to everybody. Okay. And I really appreciate the fact that we do have a full quorum today, and I do recall many meetings where the PACAB regular meeting went for 2 hours. And but I don't know if that's a measure of our success, that they're shorter now, or that we're not being presented with enough opportunities to help the council more. So, but I do have a question that I asked the last time I was here. I don't know the exact details of it, but my understanding was that there was some sort of report or presentation made by Homer Electric to the council. And if there was such a thing done, I would really like some sort of report or a copy of what was presented. I'm not sure if I'm correct, but I'm asking if at a later date I could be communicated with.
Yeah, it's good to see everybody here and healthy, and me included. And I want to make one comment, and I'll take a lot of the blame on myself for not researching it good enough, but I have this feeling that that as a city, we're not addressing long-term wastewater disposal because of the expansion of the town, to wanting more housing, more things happening. All of this runs wastewater in. And our facility, I know at times, and it's due to weather and water conditions, but it overflows. And it also, the odor out at low point, depending on what direction the wind's blowing, it can be quite strong, and that's a real negative. And I've smelled it all the way down to the Sea Life Center. You know, I know where that odor's coming from, and it isn't the marine life in the Sea Life Center. So, just that comment, and thank you.
Thanks. I guess to end out the meeting, I wanted to let everybody know that I'm not sure how much longer I will be able to be on the board. My employer is choosing to no longer operate in Seward. We're moving our facility out. Our lease is up over at SMIC March 31st, and so I'm not exactly sure where in that process. I will be moved back down to our corporate headquarters. So I will let everybody know, make sure there's plenty of time, and we can figure out what happens in my absence. As I have looked at options of staying in town, but as you know, employment and housing are hard to find in Seward. So I will be relocating, and we can deal with that as the time comes up. I'm looking forward for the opportunity for this board to interact with City Council and talk specifically. We are an advisory board, and I think very good, clear communication between us and the City Council is important. We do have these 2 hours set aside. We do have a lot of experience, and knowing that they are utilizing us as the tool we're meant to be in a way that is helpful to them, I think is really important and a really good discussion to have. So I'm looking forward to that. And with that, I will close our meeting at 12:45.
Wow.